Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names, kicking candy ass, live and in living color here with you only on Grande's Graveyard. And tonight, I am not just the Cemetery Man. No, I am taking souls and I'm digging motherfucking holes only on Grande's Graveyard, the greatest live YouTube show horror-wise this side or any other side of the whole goddamn world, because Tonight, we finally back up the name this show is based off. Yes, ladies and gents, tonight, Grande's Graveyard. We're repping the original t-shirt here. Grande's Graveyard covers graveyard horror movies. Yeah, I know. It's crazy that it's taken 6+ years for this moment to come. I've reviewed and discussed other graveyard-themed horror movies in certain different specials. Obviously, the Gates of Hell trilogy episode that I've done. We have discussed Pet Sematary in a retrospective of that franchise. And I've touched here and there on all sorts of different graveyard horror movies, but I never dedicated an exact show to it. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead. Let me tonight in live and living color on Grande's Graveyard talk about some of my favorite graveyard horror movies. And that's how we're going to kick the show off. I'm going to actually show some graveyard horror movies that I won't be going as in depth with tonight. Obviously, we could talk about them at the end. There should be time because I am off tomorrow, so I'll be chilling a late night on the graveyard. You know, there's the only way you could do a Grande's Graveyard is a little bit of a graveyard shift only on this fine Thursday to kick off the summer. Now, of course, I have 3 graveyard horror movies that we are going to go in depth on. Of course, first being a Spanish film from the year 1971, goes under many titles. The Butcher of Binbrook is one of them, but the one we're going on tonight is The Graveyard of Horror. Yes, The Graveyard of Horror from 1971, Spanish film from director Miguel Madrid. We'll be reviewing that. Of course, from 1990, it is a lesser discussed Stephen King adaptation. Some say that's for a good reason, but will I agree? This is Graveyard Shift from 1990, of course, starring the legendary Brad Dourif in a supporting role as an exterminator. But we'll be discussing that one. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, possibly the lastly and bestly, the film from, of course, 1994, director Michele Soavi, and, of course, lead actor Rupert Everett. I'm talking about De la Morte de l'Amor, a.k.a. my favorite title, and a title that I've actually used as my intro for the past, 6 years, The Cemetery Man. Yes, Cemetery Man. So I'm very excited to discuss all things graveyard horror movies here tonight as we hit the chat. Let's see how y'all are doing. We got Cody Snyder was here before we even went live. Cody Snyder, evening, John, folks. Welcome, Cody. Hope all is well with you. Ciao, Grande and friends. The Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. versus The Cemetery Man movie only on Grande's Graveyard. Rupert Everett, bring it, buddy. You bring your ass over here because I'll take you. I'll take Navgi. I don't care who you throw at me. I'll take she. You're all going down because The Cemetery Man, like I said in the beginning, I am digging holes. I am taking souls tonight on Grande's Graveyard. We got Tom is in the house, the undead of night. Hi, John and chat. Welcome, Tom. I know you had asked me years ago, one of the first times you ever popped up on this channel, you would ask me what are some of my favorite graveyard horror movies, which I thought was a clever question then, and didn't make it a show until all this time later. So welcome, man. I'm happy to finally do a graveyard-centered show on Grande's Graveyard. Ciao, Grande. Tonight, Cemetery Man on Cemetery Man. You know my thoughts on the movie. Suave, great director. Anna Fauci in the movie is just awful. Hi to the whole graveyard. Yeah, no, I know, and I definitely need to get some more insight on why you dislike it. I know you said from the marketing standpoint, I believe you told me it was grossly mismarketed, if memory serves. And I definitely would love to hear more of your thoughts on the film when we get there. We have Anthony Showbut does Pop Cultures and Openings. Hey, how are you, buddy? By the way, still up to 2012 in the memoirs. Awesome, man. Awesome. Very cool to hear. I don't have anything to cheers, if you will. I don't have any drinks on me right now, but we're going to get underway with this son of a bitch. Of course, before we get into the reviews, I figure we talk a little bit about graveyard horror. And hell, maybe we can even go break the fourth wall. Grande, why is this show even called Grande's Graveyard? I don't know if this is, I'm sure I have told it over the years, but I did not remember for sure. So this is a brief anecdote as to why this show is called Grande's Graveyard. Now, Grande's Graveyard was not my name idea for the show. My name, the original name of Grande's Graveyard, had I not reached out to people, was going to be Terror Time with John Grande. And it sounds as bad as you hear. I mean, that is an awful title, but that was my idea. I wanted to do alliteration, Terror Time, TT. I was like, okay, this works. This will work somehow. Terror Time with John Grande. obviously just didn't have that ring to it. And I reached out, I did a prompt, and I said, hey, people come up with some names for this show. I need a name. And the very first one with my good friend Jonathan, he reached out and he said, Grande's Graveyard. And I said, that is the perfect freaking title for the show. And 6 years later, here we are. We're still here. We're still on Grande's Graveyard. And tonight we're talking about graveyard horror movies. And of course, before I get into the main featured reviews, I figured we go over the years of graveyard horror movies that were influential to me, that I enjoyed growing up as a child. And the first one that comes to mind is actually probably one of the first movies to ever feature said graveyard in a prominent way. And of course, that's the original 1931 Frankenstein, of course, from the legendary, James Whale, and of course Boris Karloff as the monster and Colin Clive as Dr. Frankenstein. Just an all-time great horror movie, and I always remember how much it scared me when the opening graveyard scene happens, where he and his assistant, they're in this spooky graveyard, and it's been almost 100 years, right? We're 6 years away from this movie being 100 years old. It's pretty hard to think about. And it still works. It's still creepy. It's still, to me, what I love about graveyards and horror movies, and why I think they're so quintessential to the movies that we'll be discussing here tonight, is it's such a, I think, great usage and trope of building atmosphere, building tension, of building this environment within your movie. And I think that, this is a movie that did it perfectly. It's like, perfectly sets you off the bat and drags you into this world like, oh my gosh, like this is really creepy. This is really unsettling. And there's so many movies that did that too, of course, which another one of my all-time favorite movies, actually got the chance to see this in the theater just a week or so ago. George A. Romero's The Original Night of the Living Dead. It opens in the cemetery as well. They are coming to get you, Barbara. Stop it. You're acting like a child. They're coming for you, Barbara. There comes one of them now. One of the great horror movie openings of all time is, of course, Johnny and his sister Barbara driving up to the Evans City Cemetery in George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. The epic music and the unsettling vibe that world has, and the ghoul, if you will, the legendary ghoul / zombie that is the first one that has ever been put to film, and how great of an opening, just another great hook into this world of the Living Dead. And of course, we would go on to get, movies like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, etc., and all these movies that were kind of bastard cousins, like Let Sleeping Corpses Lie or The Grapes of Death, or all these really interesting movies that sort of borrowed from this. I always felt the cemetery opening was just, there's no better way to kick off a franchise or a new subgenre of horror and zombie films than George Romero did it here with this Evansville Cemetery. And I know the Evans City Cemetery, you could still visit it to this day, and it looks next to identical. I mean, it's next to the same nowadays. It's pretty wild. Another one that, to me, and I have done these movies in the past, but I really would like to try them again. And because I really do like this franchise, of course, to me, possibly the best, like, creepy graveyard in the history of cinema is in Phantasm. Boy, I mean, that cemetery and how they're burying the one guy, and fucking the tall man lifting the coffin by himself out of that car, and then the whole kind of hall mausoleum and the spears and the great score. I mean, holy shit. To this day, I still think Phantasm is one of the all-time great horror movies. It's one of the most underrated for sure. A movie that I always felt should be up there with Halloween. It should be up there with, some of the greats. It's just never really mentioned with those. And I can understand why. It is a little weird. It is a little obscure. Is a little abstract, if you will. But I think Phantasm is a movie that oozes that graveyard aesthetic and atmosphere. It's like a movie that I think is quintessential if you're going graveyard horror movies. Phantasm has got to be towards the top of that list. It's definitely one of my all-time faves, and a movie that, again, I saw at such a young age, but it always made me kind of scared of cemeteries. I don't like going. It's funny. I'm the cemetery man. I have a show named after Grande's Graveyard. That is one of the last places I'd like to go, is a graveyard. And it's funny. Well, that's where we all end up eventually, right? So we're cremated, but we all end up in the graveyard. So we will someday, sometime. Of course, other ones that I can mention: A House by the Cemetery, Lucio Fulci; Gates of Hell, The City of the Living Dead, of course, by Lucio Fulci. Those two are incredible. Of course, City of the Living Dead, which I do have. I just didn't grab it. I'm sorry. I love that whole idea of that movie of a priest hanging himself and thus opening the gates of hell and all these zombies come to kill you. I love that movie. Always loved City of the Living Dead. I think that's a great one. Return of the Living Dead is another great one with the kids in the graveyard and the acid rain. And do you want to party? I mean, Linnea Quigley doing the dance of the dead. Tonight we'll make love till we die. I mean, a great one. Another one that just oozes that atmosphere. And again, that's the beauty of horror movies to me, is a great aesthetic when it comes to your, atmosphere and your tone of your film. And graveyard horror movies generally hit home with that. Other ones, Night of the Living Dead 90s one I like The Grave Dancers. There's so many. Pet Sematary, another all-time great graveyard horror movie. But tonight we'll discuss these three individually. But like I said, if there's time at the end, if there's ones you guys want to discuss, like I just mentioned, in more depth or detail, or ones that you feel I neglected to mention, by all means. But let's see what y'all have to say in the comments, and we'll get into our main reviews here. Let's see where we were. I think we were here. Texas, THC 1965. Hola, Grande, and everyone. Hola, Texas. Ryan Hanley's in the house. What's going on, Ryan? Hope all is well with you. We got Grief World, the legendary Nate the Great. Hey, everyone, the explorer of horror. Yo, John, check your Insta when it's done. It's something I shared important concerning those Sleepaway Camp 4Ks. Oh, boy, more drama with Scheme Factory. I think that what makes cemeteries in horror movies such amazing trope is that they're usually a place of long-forgotten memories, but in horror, it's scary because it's of the dark atmosphere. Absolutely, Slasher Fred, hitting the nail on the head, my friend. And yeah, no, it's, in a movie like Cemetery Man de la Morte de la Mort, which we will discuss in high detail here tonight, I think that this movie has so much to say about living and dying and love and friendship, and it has a lot to say about all those things. So I think a cemetery is the perfect place, the perfect setting for said tone. I used to rent Frankenstein from the library as a kid, VHS days. It was my introduction to horror when I was about 5. Yeah, isn't that cool? It's like, no matter how old that movie gets, it's nearing 100 years. It's like a perfect gateway horror movie. It really is. And emphasis on the gates of the graveyard, if you will, as Colin Clive opens us up. I need his brain, I need his heart. I think Colin Clive makes that. Now I know what it is to be God. I know they wanted to cut that out, but I think that's a great line because it's the truth. He's created life. He's created the monster, if you will. Big part of the ending of Candyman takes place at a graveyard as well. I didn't think of that. That's a great point. I love Candyman. Candyman's a great movie. I wish there was more cemetery in House by the Cemetery. Yeah, no, I'm sure some people will probably call me out. A graveyard shift is not really a graveyard. There's some people that will probably call me out for that pick, but I think it is a graveyard horror movie. It's the same thing with, Night of the Living Dead. It's the opening. We get the graveyard. That's it. The rest of it's in a farmhouse. It could easily be farmhouse horror special, whatever you want to call it. One of my favorite cemetery movies is Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Yes, Bob Clark. Quintessential Bob Clark. Phantasm. I agree, man. Phantasm is one of those movies I always felt it should be named with the greatest. Like, I just love Don Coscarelli's direction and the way that he made that movie feel like it was something out of Italy. It's incredible because I very rarely see American directors capture an Italian vibe and kind of feel. And Don Coscarelli was able to do that with Phantasm. Of course, the famous thing was it was funded by his parents. Don Coscarelli's parents helped him fund the movie, and just all the themes in Phantasm, like the kid going to the gypsy and he has to learn to let go of the fear, otherwise it'll clinch onto you forever. And I think it's a really smart movie. It's a movie that not enough people give credit to me. It's liked, it's enjoyed, but I sort of think it should be an all-time like universal classic from, not just the diehard fans like us, but from everybody. I think it's a movie that deserves a little bit more love than it gets. Return of the Living Dead has a cool graveyard scene. Of course, dude. Return of the Living Dead is an absolute blast from start to finish. I lived near a graveyard I used to walk through at night all the time. Never bothered me. I actually found it peaceful. Well, there you go. Miss C is a experienced graveyard cemetery walker. Eli Cortez is in the house. What's up, everyone? Eli, welcome, my friend. Hope all is well with you. We got the Trash Picture Show. Marty's in the house. Phantasm, of course, dude. Phantasm's an all-time great. Oh, believe me, John, we got scammed if it's true. Oh, boy, that is great to look forward to. Graveyard and Creep Show with Nathan Grants. Oh, my God, that's a great call. And John Amplis. I want my cake, Bedelia. No, I want my cake. I mean, that's a classic. Totally. Creepshow. Creepshow's the best. Scream Factory, garbage. Oh, man. Never seen Cemetery Man. Highly recommend Cemetery Man. I think it's fucking great. Yeah, Cemetery Man's excellent. I agree. Got to see it. Y'all consider Nightbreed a great? Yes, I do. Absolutely. That's one I should have grabbed. I love Nightbreed. Yeah, Nightbreed is awesome. I'm in agreement with that. Clive Barker did a great job with that. I know a lot of people, it's very hit or miss. It's either you think it's great or you like find it the most boring movie in the world. I never saw that. I always thought it was really, really good. I liked the creature designs. I liked the action atmosphere. Of course, the great, oh my God, David Cronenberg as the heel in that is one of the best performances by a non-actor you will ever see. He is so good and creepy and sinister in that film. John, we could have gotten, oh boy, what about Tombstone Pizza? AJ Zicho's in the house. Why not? Let's have some Tombstone Pizza. Oh, yeah, no, I did hear that news. I thought that was it. Graveyard Rats from Cabinet of Curiosities has a good one with the tunnels. Dude, and I can talk about this is one I should review towards the end. I will review towards the end of the show. I'm going to say it right now. Graveyard Rats is an infamous Richard Matheson story, and it's been adapted a ton of times. My favorite time, though, is in a little movie called Trilogy of Terror 2. Yes, Trilogy of Terror 2. The rat creatures, the effects of them, the giant teeth and the rabies and the red eyes. To this day, it scares the shit out of me, man. Like, I have a hard time watching that. So I can totally talk about that at the end for sure. Army of Darkness is a fun cemetery scene with the skeleton army. Welcome back to the land of the living. Now pick up a shovel and get digging. Yeah. And the skeleton, let's get the hell out of here. I love that. Hell yeah, we're talking about Children of the Living Dead. Nice. We are not talking about Children of the Living Dead. Scratch Birdo is in the house. Welcome, Scratch. The original series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Always had a cemetery in some of their episodes. Sure, absolutely. But let's get to the topics at hand. Let's review some graveyard horror movies, the one that I have prepared for. And we could discuss this all night. We could do at the end of the show, if you guys want to talk about other ones, we totally can, because I got no cap tonight. We can go as deep as we want. Which leads me to the question, which one should we start with? You know what? I think we'll start in 1990. I think we will start with one that is a Stephen King adaptation that nobody really talks about. Of course, this is a movie that has gotten bashed over the years. It was bashed via word of mouth at the time. It opened #1 at the box office, but unfortunately, word of mouth, negative-wise, made the movie bomb. And of course, the movie I'm referring to from 1990, this is from director, of course, Ralph S. Singleton, and writer John Esposito, who's a dear friend of the show. I'm talking about Graveyard Shift. Yes, Graveyard Shift from 1990. Let's get a brief plot synopsis up here. In a dark and nasty textile factory close to a cemetery and infested of rats, many workers are missing. When a corrupt manager, Warwick, is forced by a sanitary agent to hire exterminator Tucker Cleveland, played by the legendary Brad Dourif, he asks Tucker to use less poison and necessarily reduce the costs. Meanwhile, the drifter, John Hall, applies for a job and accepts the position of an operator of a textile machine during the graveyard shift. What they do not know is that in the graveyard, there is a huge creature underground threatening the workers. Yes, Graveyard Shift. Now, this one has a lot of interesting history that I'm not sure people know, and I kind of want to get into it because I find it quite fascinating. Now, originally, this movie in like 1981 was being discussed about adapting to the big screen. Of course, the guy that was in talks to do it, the guy that had the rights to direct the film, was a guy by the name of George Amick. And who is George Amick? George Amick actually worked as a producer alongside George Romero in 1981. This was, of course, when George was making Knight Riders, and George Amick was a guy that was close friends with George Romero and had George Romero's blessing to give to Stephen King. George said, hey, Stephen, if there's anybody that's going to do this, I see a lot of potential in George Amick. I really think he should be the guy to get the shot. And Stephen King did not look at the short story of Graveyard Shift as this big mega opus or anything that was too near or dear to his heart. So he said, hey, I'll give it to you for a bargain. Let's go kill it. So by 1985, George Amick acquired the rights to make Graveyard Shift. There were a lot of fumblings in between. John Esposito had been signed on as the writer. And of course, there were a lot of different issues. George Amick eventually pulled out after a lot of creative development hell, if you will, and the movie not having enough serious back funding. And because he backs out, we wait all the way till 1989, where another great cemetery horror movie called Pet Sematary, of course, with the Stephen King name on it, directed by the legendary Mary Herron, if you will. She does a great job with that movie. Really, really enjoy Pet Sematary. I think it's one of the all-time great. Mary Herron did American Psycho. I knew it. My brain was like, wait a minute. Mary Lambert was the one that directed Pet Sematary. And then, of course, what happened from there was Pet Sematary made a shitload of money. Pet Sematary made just under $60 million worldwide. And all of a sudden, there was big interest. Hey, we got to do another Stephen King adaptation, AS motherfucking P. We got to get this son of a bitch going. We got to get this show on the road. And the guy that was also ultimately brought in to direct was Ralph S. Singleton, who had worked, of course, on Pet Sematary as I think also like a associate producer. He may have even directed some second unit stuff. And he was the one that went up to the producers and said, hey, I can get this thing out to you by October. I can get this thing out to you, signed, sealed, delivered, on time, on budget, no questions asked. We can get this son of a bitch in the theaters right as Rocktober season hits. And that was the ultimate goal of Graveyard Shift. It was, let's get this done. Let's fucking get this in the theater by October. Let's make a shit ton of money. Let's be the very next Stephen King adaptation around the pike after Pet Sematary hits a home run in 1989. We bleed over into a new decade, and the idea was, let's jump on that money train, brother. That's one of the things that I think is the ultimate downfall of the movie over time, and the reason that it is not remembered, it is not looked upon fondly by a lot of Stephen King enthusiasts. Stephen King himself hates the movie. He says it's one of the worst adaptations of any of his work. But again, this is coming from a guy who also did not like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, so if that is what it is. I think I understand why he doesn't like the movie too, is because he's called it a exploitation cheap picture. He felt that this was just a movie that used the rats as exploitative. It didn't have much to say, and it was really kind of sign, seal, deliver, a quick watch, like 84 minutes with credits. It's a quick movie. I respectfully disagree with Stephen King. I think this movie is solid, but there is no doubt that it was looked at as a piece of shit at the time. This was a movie that showed on television all the time. AMC was a darling of this movie, showed that to death. And it's one of those movies that a lot of Stephen King fans and just cinema fans in general have not really gravitated towards. Now, I know there was eventually, speaking of Scheme Factory, a Blu-ray from them, and now there's a 4K from Kino. So you'd be surprised what movies will get special edition, high budget releases. There is a 4K of Graveyard Shift out if you're interested. My thoughts on the movie, I like the movie overall. I don't think it's this big disgrace piece of shit. I don't see that at all. I think it's fun. I think what its problems are right off the bat what I said. It was, let's rush this. Let's get this thing in the theater. That is a bad mentality to have. Sometimes to get it right, you've got to take your time. And sometimes it may be in an absurd amount of time. It may be too much time by your thoughts, by the producer's thoughts. If you're going over budget, if you're shooting off schedule, if you're doing all these things that aren't expected of you as a director when you're expected to get it done on time, on budget, in the theater by October as promised, I can understand and see where some of the things with this movie goes wrong. And where they do, I think, is the biggest problem with this movie is it doesn't have much of its own personal charm. It doesn't have a lot of personality as a movie. That's one thing I don't like at this movie. I don't feel this movie ever gives itself a chance to breathe. We have all these blue-collar workers. We are in this textile mill. It's dungy. It's sweaty. It's gross. You feel the grime in there, and I like that part of it. But I wanted to know some of these other characters, and really they're very one-dimensional, very stereotypical. Bully, fat bully. Like, that's all really they do, and I don't really like that. I think they could have had better characters in this. You do have the Drifter, of course, John Hall, who's our lead here, played by David Andrews. And David Andrews is a little bit boring, a little bit vanilla as the lead. I thought he could have used a little bit more personality to him. Now, I know the original plan to have the lead be Andrew Divoff. And if you don't know who Andrew Divoff is, he played the Wishmaster. If you're anyone who's a fan of Wishmaster 1 or 2, he, of course, played the Djinn in Wishmaster. He was going to be the lead, and I wish they had let him do that because it wasn't very often he got to play a babyface, but instead they got David Andrews. He does okay. There's not much to him. His wife has left him. He's a boring drifter. He has no personality. He at times likes to shoot these cans around, which I thought that was nice. But again, I would have liked more of that. I don't know. Of course, to me, where you do get some personality is between two actors, Stephen Mott as Warwick, the boss, and of course, Brad Dourif as the exterminator, Tucker Cleveland. Their main accents are so fun, especially Warwick of you ever been to a graveyard lately? And the whole, that was fantastic. Maybe I should look you up on Star Search. His main accent is worth the watch alone. It is so fucking funny. And I watched an interview with him in preparation for show, and I love that he was mentioning that his kids sometimes call him up on the phone and will use that accent to him, or if they're leaving a message for him, that, maybe you should go to Star Search. And the fucking whole these great lines. You mean to go into hell together? I mean, he's so much fun in this. And again, horror fans will remember him from a little movie called Amityville, 1992. It's About Time. He was the dad in Amityville, It's About Time, which is the second best or third best Amityville movie. It's in the top 3. It's one of the best Amityville movies for sure. There's not many, but that's one of the best ones is Amityville, It's About Time. He's a lot of fun here as this mean boss who's sleeping with women in the office, and they're using him to get their own air-conditioned office and things like that, but he treats all women like garbage. He treats his workers like trash. And of course, he's trying to deal with Brad Dourif on the side to get rid of these rats, get rid of the infestation. Like, I need to stay open, man. And Brad Dourif is electric here. I love Brad Dourif in this movie. His whole speech on rats in the Viet Cong. I mean, it's great. Like the biggest puppies, and they had no fear, nothing like a Kong. And I ain't not one of them burning baby flashback fuck ups you see in Bruce Stern pictures. So quit your grinning. I mean, he's oh my god, so much. You have any idea what VC rats eat? Try raw American mayo. Thank you. I mean, he's incredible, just so much fun in this movie. And it's a shame because I know he said in interviews, in recent interviews at least, that he doesn't remember making the film. Like he was like, oh, dude, that was just a job. Like I forgot the movie, you know? And it makes sense. I mean, this would have been the year Child's Play 2 comes out. I believe Exorcist 3 would have been, I think Exorcist 3 was this year as well. So yeah, he was busy as fuck. I mean, of those in that company, Exorcist 3, Child's Play 2, and this is definitely the weakest link goodbye. I can see why he doesn't remember it, but he was busy as fuck. I mean, you go on to work with Argento and Trauma just a couple years down the road as well. And I think Brad Dourif is one of the best things in this movie. He's barely in it, unfortunately, like 2, 3, maybe 4 scenes. He's not in the movie very much. But his monologues, his intensity, I think, really make him shine. Like, that's the thing with Brad Dourif. You know, great presence, great personality. But I think the beautiful thing, the number one thing I love about Brad Dourif is his intensity. He's so fucking intense in all of these scenes. You really do believe that he saw some crazy Viet Cong rats that were tunneling through people because they heated up metal bowls on these people's bodies, and you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, he's so good in this. The practical creature, I do think by the end, when you do see it, it looks okay. It's nothing bad. I think it might have been Howard Berger. I forget who did the effects of this movie, but it's not bad looking. They do the classic horror trope of keeping the monster in the shadows. This giant bat / rat creature with wings and a long tail and the gnarly fangs and all these things. I like that they kept the creature in the shadows so you could kind of fill in the blanks of, holy shit, what does this thing look like as it's picking off worker after worker, and then of course secretary after secretary. It's picking them all off. I liked that stuff. The script here from John Esposito, I think, is really good, and I think that's something that's very undersung about the movie. Now, of course, I know John Esposito. I've met him several times. Me and his son are good buddies. We went to see Eraserhead together just a few months ago. So shout out to Ben Esposito. Really nice guy, really nice family. I thought John Esposito did a great job with the script. The dialogue is very memorable in an otherwise movie where the characters are very one-dimensional. And I sort of kind of point the blame at the director there, Ralph S. Singleton. This movie does feel rather rushed. I totally think you could have had more here if you let this thing breathe a little bit more. Like everything sort of feels quick. I don't really like that. I don't know. I wish the movie had more time to breathe. That's my biggest complaint. But there are some fun sequences where Brad Dourif is sent into the graveyard. When's the last time you've been to a graveyard? And of course, he sends Brad Dourif into the graveyard. Brad Dourif does not get killed by the creature. No, he gets crushed by a falling, I guess, marble stone in this. And he gets crushed like a bunch of fucking, eggs and crushed easily. His head gets crushed. He doesn't get killed by the monster, which I always thought was kind of weird, but he does die in the graveyard. So there you go. It all leads up to this kind of third act where all the textile workers, they're in the basement of this place, and the rat has gone wild and it's picking them off one by one in more gory and glory ways. I really liked that. I thought that stuff was fun. You have the one guy, hey man, I think I can feel the outside, and the thing bites his arm off. That was fun. Stephen Mott just completely going fucking crazy. You will go to hell with me. We go to hell together. He's fucking stabbing this creature, and the creature and he's biting the creature back. Like, what a G. Like, what a fucking crazy bastard. Like, I may be eaten by this rat bat creature, but I'm going to take a bite out of him with me. Like, what a fucking lunatic. I loved his character. I just thought he was great. And it all culminates to John, the character of John. He goes to the top of the place. The rat creature's kind of in the lobby with him. That's when we finally get the good shot of the creature, and it has its tail caught in like the cotton picking machine. And we pay off what we delivered earlier with the guy who was shooting cans, and he shoots it at the machine's button to start the machine, and the creature gets, eaten alive by this cotton picking machine. I don't mind the finale. It's fun. It's definitely gory. You're definitely going to get some gore here. You have, I think, what is an entertaining mini exploitation feature, as Stephen King has said, a sort of creature feature in a way. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. I know that was Stephen King's big problem. I know at the time it was considered this big, oh, well, this movie has nothing to say. Sometimes movies don't have anything to say. If movies don't have anything to say, to me, the next big thing, the next smartest thing is to make your movie entertaining. You don't have anything to say about society. You don't have anything clever to say, anything smart. No problem. Let's have fun then. Like, let's go for it. Let's laugh our asses off. Let's show some gore. Let's have some people get mutilated. Like, let's go for it then. And that's really what this movie does. So I appreciate that part of it. I don't think it's this masterpiece, but I do think it's fun. I do think it's harmless, an 80-minute movie with credits. I mean, it's really, really short. So I do think it's worth the shot. If you've never seen the movie, you could watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Tubi, Pluto. I'm sure it's on all of those. I don't know if it's on Tubi, but it's on the other two I mentioned. I think it's worth the watch. I don't think it's an all-time great. And of course, it would get one-upped huge way in the following month when a little movie called Misery, the next Stephen King adaptation of that year, of course, came out just a few weeks later. Misery is a top 5 Stephen King adaptation. I love Misery. I think Misery is great. That's a movie that came out just a few weeks after this, and this was forgotten in the shuffle forever. It just seems like nobody wants to talk about Graveyard Shift, and I don't think that's fair. I do think the movie, like I said, it has its moments. It's not an all-time masterpiece, but it's definitely entertaining. Everybody does a good enough job. There's some memorable one-liners. There's some fun kills, a crazy third act. I don't mind this movie. I know some people are going to disagree. I'm sure I'm going to get some shit in the comments, but man, this one I don't think is as bad as a lot say. So that's just me. Let's hear what you all have to say about Graveyard Shift, because I am very curious. Of course, great movie. Love the creature. Yes, the creature, I do think they did that part right. Like to me, the best creature features, when you're waiting for the big practical monster makeup effect at the end, or nowadays CG, they keep the monster in the shadows as long as humanly possible to build the suspense, terror, and psychology of your own mind, filling in those blanks. Holy shit, what does this thing look like? What is this thing eating? What the fuck? How did this thing come to be? Now, there's no explanation in the movie. There is an explanation in the short story, but there is none in the movie. So if you're looking for, how did this happen? You don't get that. Like, again, it's very, like, why not? Why not write that in? What was the big reason? Was Mott doing these crazy things and, dumping chemicals where he shouldn't have been, and this big bat rat creature was created? Like, give me something that ties back into these big bad wolves that you're building on site. I think that would have been smart, but they didn't go there. Again, it felt like, nope, we don't have time for that. Like, that was the big mistake they made. Warwick is amazing. He is so fucking fun in this. The main accent, I don't do it that good, but the main accent he brings is so fucking fun, man. Like, I love him. Great characters and atmosphere. Yeah, he's good, and the executioner, the exterminator, is good. That's it though. Everyone else stinks to me. Kelly Wolf, boring, white, like whole wheat toast fucking girlfriend. You have the lead that's vanilla. You have the fucking some of the other we're all bullies, but we have there's nothing to them. I wanted some personality. I think you totally could have done that, but I really do think instead of getting moments like that, we kind of rushed through it. And I do blame the director for that because again, I think he had big eyes where, oh my God, I can get this to October. Stephen King's name on it's going to sell tickets alone. And yes, it opens #1. But then the movie didn't do well after that. And sometimes that's the difference between smart filmmaking and stupid filmmaking. Now, I think it's a perfectly fine movie. I had a good time with it. I would go see it in the movies if it was playing in the movies tomorrow. That's not the point. The difference is great movies, truly great horror movies that take their time and allow the film to breathe. They're going to draw all the money in the world. They're the ones that people are going to go back to see. This was a one and done. This was a bring your popcorn, bring your soda. Yeah, we're having a good time, but I'm going to forget the movie on the ride home. That's the problem with Graveyard Shift. And again, doesn't have to be. There's nothing wrong with being a low budget exploitation picture. But I do think what was wrong was their mentality. That was the problem. That's not what they set out to do. They set out to make money, and they were limited, unfortunately. The movie feels like it takes place in the 1950s because during the scene where the women are drinking coffee while looking at the notepad, she looks like a very 1950s housewife. That's a good point. Yeah, it definitely, I like the setting. I thought the setting was very, you felt it. And I would like to actually see this in 4K because I watched the standard def version. It looks like shit. Like this definitely could benefit from being in high def. It definitely left a little bit to be desired on the visual standpoint. AJ's Happy Fun Time channel is here. What's up, AJ? Mearns is here. Mearnsy's Movie Mansion. What is up, Graveyard Fan? What is up, Paul Mearns? Hope all's well with you. They really made you feel the hot, miserable atmosphere of the coffee. They did. That is so true. They really did. Like, they drive that home. You feel the uncomfortable heat in that room. And I would assume even if you're a woman, you would feel the sleaze and the disgustingness of Warwick and how he's so degrading and evil towards women. That's the only thing to me that you get with, like, any extra dimension in this is how he treats women, and you sort of want to see him get his own by one of these women. I also thought, I don't know about you, I would, if next time I see John Esposito, I'll have to ask him. The fucking fat secretary lady, I totally think they set her up to die and they never do it. Like that scene, I wonder if it was supposed to be shot because they have this annoying fat secretary throughout it that's running around yelling at people, screaming. I thought when I first saw it that it was going to lead to her getting killed in this fun. She's screaming, but she's not, doing her job. She's actually getting killed and mauled by this giant rat. That's what I was hoping for, but they don't do that. She just doesn't die in the movie. Richard France from Dawn of the Dead, dummies, the eye patch guy. He's randomly in there, but he has no lines. Weird. Really weird. I don't know. There's some weird direction. There's one guy, he gets fired. He leaves, and he's like one of the only survivors. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what? It's just weird stuff in this. I don't understand the hate for Graveyard Shift. The movie matched the tone of King's short story with its EC Comics feel. It would have been great in Creepshow. Yes, it would have been great in Creepshow. I agree. I don't get the hate either. Like, okay, if it's not a top 10, it's not. It's not a top 10. I don't even know if it'd be top 15, top 20 of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. And that includes all movies, right? It's like Ship I Stand By Me would be in there. Shawshank would be in there. Green Mile would be in there. Several other movies would be in there. This, like, it's not on the level of some of his greatest horror stuff either, but like, I also don't think it's this, it's an atrocity. Like, it's better than Dreamcatcher. It's better than fucking Rose Red. It's better than, the fucking, oh my God, what was it called? The Golden Years. It's better than shit like that. Like, to me, it's better than Thinner. There are a lot worse Stephen King adaptations out there. This is not one of them. This is middle of the road to me. Remember watching this one on Shudder a couple years ago. Really good. Did not expect the giant ass rat. Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, no, I would think you would like totally up your alley for Mearns, right? Practical effects, creature feature, totally fun characters and dialogue. This would be a fun movie night for me and Mearns, man. I like Graveyard Shift. This movie also has Andrew Divoff. Yep, that's right. I did mention that. Another great Brad Dourif performance too. Yes, Brad Dourif's money here. Like, I think Brad Dourif almost steals the movie. Like, I wish he was in it more, to be honest. Stephen King seems pretty petty about the movie adaptations of his books. Maybe he should stop selling the rights to them. And he sold this. You want to hear what he sold the rights for this movie? $2,500. $2,500. for the rights. That's what I mean, that's, you didn't give a shit. Like, to me, if I sold something for that and you made this, I'd be like, all right, cool, like, fuck it. But I mean, he's entitled to his opinion. Hard to believe Graveyard was exploitative to him when the Mangler is a thing. Yeah, Toby Hooper's the Mangler. That's right, with the killer washing machine. The Mangler has many other horror people, including Robert Englund and Toby Hooper, which they were buddies in real life. I wish Andrew Divoff would have been in Wishmaster 3. He's the only Jin to me. Like, he's so good as the Wishmaster. Like, I love Andrew Divoff, and it's fun to see him in there. It's like, oh shit, the fucking Wishmaster. Wish us out of this, you know? It's cool to see him in there. I don't know if you could call this a horror movie, but it's also a serial killer movie. It is also with Brad Dourif, is Eyes of Laura Mars. That's an awesome movie. I wouldn't call that a horror movie either. I've seen worse adaptations of Stephen King's books and novels. I'm totally there. Like, I don't see this as one of the worst. I think, what does this have? Like a 5 on IMDb? That's too low. That's way too low. This movie is not a 5 on IMDb. I would say this movie is like a 6.5, totally. Like, I would say it's there, maybe even a 7. Slasher Fred, even though that is really not a horror movie, but is focused on real life horror of the murders of the 3 civil rights. Yeah, no, exactly. Let's see. Oops, I just accidentally skipped a ton of comments. I am sorry. We were here. Yeah, Graveyard Shift is more of a movie where I like the supporting cast more than the lead. He's okay, but not great. Yeah, no, the lead, I was wanting something more. Like, I thought he was so flat in this. Like, he totally needed something more. But again, maybe that was the way he was directed to be. That maybe that was the character on the page. Now, this guy, David Andrews, he didn't go on to do all that much more. Like, he seemed to act sporadically. He didn't have this great grand career. And it makes sense if you see a movie like this. He's okay, he's passable, but he's not like what could have been if you had a great actor in the lead, going off Dourif, going off Mott. Imagine what could have been. You know, that's the thing. It's good, but it could have been all these things. Ghostface Brett's in the house. What's up, Brett? Sick Hack Ronnie. Thank you so much. Repping the greatest movie of all time. Yes, I agree. Misery's that's a top 10 Stephen King. Like, I love Rob Reiner's direction, James Caan's performance, and of course, Kathy Bates in the performance that it made her Kathy Bates. Like, nobody would know Kathy Bates the way we do if it wasn't for Misery, if it wasn't for Annie Wilkes. I'm your number one fan. She's, oh my God, so good in that movie. Misery is a 10 out of 10. I love Misery. That's a movie we have reviewed on the Graveyard too. And also, if you're a collector, it is one of the best 4Ks ever. I highly recommend the 4K from Kino. That's a great 4K. Misery was produced by Barry Sonnenfeld, who would direct such comedies as Get Shorty and Men in Black, and just a short few years after that would direct the Addams Family movies. Of course, I think 91. It was the following year Barry Sonnenfeld got the chance to direct the Addams Family movie. My birthday is tomorrow. Stoked to check out that new John Wick spinoff. Well, happy early birthday, my friend. Hope you enjoy the movie. Stephen Mott reminded me of Fred Ward. Oh my God, he does look like Fred Ward. And that's funny because Fred Ward would have been in Tremors in 1990, and that came out the same year. So yeah, totally a Fred Ward lookalike. Yeah, his Slasher Fred's with us. He's going to be at Scarefest in Lexington. Cool. Happy early birthday, Brett. Mine's the 16th, same as Tupac. Oh, hell yeah. June babies, cheers. Hell yeah. LOVE machines in the house. The love machine. What's up, Grande? I never watched this one due to my fear of rodents. Well, yeah, if you have a fear of rats, don't watch this movie for sure. And I'm going to review of course, the Graveyard Rats at the end of this, which that's a fucking another one that to this day scares the shit out of me. James Abernathy's here, slightly late, but hi, I'm here. Welcome, my friend. Albert Cole is in the house. The Night Flyer is better. Oh man, that's an underrated one too, with of course the late great Miguel Ferrer. Miguel Ferrer is so good in that movie. That's an underrated one. Good one. Good call out for that, Albert. That's a good one. Dude, it's okay. I'm odd King fan. Hello, I got Sleepwalkers and Maximum Overdrive at the top of my list. I am a truck driver, but not incestuous cat vampire fan. That's awesome, man. No, hey, if you're a truck driver, that makes sense, though. I got to ask the burning question, too. Are you a fan of Over the Top? That's the true question to any truck driver, because we have to ask that. This is written direct by Alan Parr. Okay, people saying hi to one another. But yeah, that is Graveyard Shift. I like the movie. I think it's good. I don't think it's anything to scoff at. I don't know. I never thought it was this big, horrible movie that a lot of people make it out to be. I think there's far worse ways you can go with Stephen King. That's just me, though. But coming up next, let's dive into I love Over the Top. Okay, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Cool. I love Over the Top. Very cool. Shout out Ted DiBiase. Shout out Sly Stallone. Which one should we do next? Should we do the middle one? I don't know. Should we do Cemetery Man? I feel like we should save Cemetery Man to the end. Nah, fuck it. Let's do Cemetery Man. Okay, so coming up next, of course, this one came out in the year 1994 from director Michele Soave. Yes, Michele Soave. This is Cemetery Man, a.k.a. De la Morte de l'Amor. Yes, of course, the Cemetery Man. And this awesome 4K edition from Severin Films. Again, another top 4K of all time. It just looks incredible. If you haven't gotten this, I highly recommend it. And we have the briefest of brief plot synopsises. Let's go here. This is not a great plot synopsis, but it is what it is. A cemetery man must kill the dead a second time when they become zombies. Yes, Cemetery Man, De la Morte de l'Amor. This, ever since the first time I saw it, I thought this was an absolute fucking masterpiece. And I love this movie. I think this is definitely top 10 graveyard horror movie. Definitely a top 10 zombie movie, too. This is like, it could be top 10 anything. And I think the beauty of this movie is how well-rounded it is. It's very grand when you're looking for a great horror movie in general. And of course, the story of the director dates back to all the way in like the early 1980s. Michele Soave was a student of the maestro Dario Argento, and he helped work on films like Tenebrae. He helped work on films like Phenomena and Opera. And of course, he would not just work with Dario, he would work with Lamberto Bava on the Demons films. And he was a guy that would act sporadically, and even movies like Alien El Sulta Terra, which is just as bad as you think it is. Alien 2 El Sulta Terra, that is a horrible movie. Michele Soave was in there as an actor. This is a guy that had worked his way up. He had learned and absorbed everything from these guys of your Dario Argentos, your Lamberto Bavas of the world. He learned his way into he ultimately gets to direct Stage Fright and The Church and The Sect. And I like all those movies a lot, but to me, his opus, his best movie, and a movie that makes me wish he had directed more, is De la Morte de l'Amor, a.k.a. The Cemetery Man, which, again, is a movie that I've liked so much, I made it a part of the intro. Like, that's how much this movie means to me. It's a part of every week of Grande's Graveyard, The Cemetery Man. I was like, I want to be the Cemetery Man, man. I want to be Rupert Everett's character. He's just great in this, too, Rupert Everett. And it basically tells the story of course, Francesco de la Morte, who works in this cemetery, and he is the night watcher, if you will. He and his friend Nagi, they watch over the cemetery as every 7 days, once you're buried there, you come back to life, and it's up to the cemetery man to take care of you. Now, this was a German, French, and Italian co-production, so you'll see a lot of everybody in here. Of course, the guy who plays Nagi, he's a French actor. You have Anna Falchi as she, who is this woman that is just absolutely voluptuous. I'll give you 2 reasons to like Anna Falchi. She's just gorgeous in this. Is, of course, this woman who comes to the cemetery one day as her husband has passed, and he's this elderly gentleman, and she goes on and on. He was the best lover. He was the best everything. You know, she goes on and on about this guy, and Rupert Everett's like, what the fuck? Like, this guy is 85 years old. Like, what are you talking about? That's the thing with this, too. It's a movie with so much to say. It's a movie that asks you pivotal questions, right? It's a movie where it asks you, I think, what my interpretation of it is. And there's several different ways you can interpret it. It's the age-old question, you're spending your life with the living dead, but is that better or worse than spending your life with the dead living? And I know that might sound really stupid, really weird, really bizarre for me to say and ask, but I think that's what it's saying. I think that's what it's asking. It provides and provokes a lot from the viewer. This is not a movie where you could really just sit down and turn your brain off and enjoy the shit on the screen. This has a lot to say, as opposed to Stephen King's Graveyard Shift. This has everything to say. It has things to say about love, about friendship, about life, about death, about life versus death, and everything in between, as we follow Rupert Everett, who plays this very nonchalant, very unenthused guy that is very sarcastic, sardonic, and is just this great character to watch. We listen to his monologues about his life living in this graveyard and taking care of it every single day. And so we follow him and Nagi, and they're just kind of living life and killing people off and all the funny encounters they have. I think the great thing about this movie, too, is the sense of humor to it. It has a great sense of humor that doesn't overshadow the horror that's going on or the drama that's going on. it has a little bit of everything in it. Like I said, the dramatic elements, has elements of friendship, of course, between he and Nagi, who Nagi only says one word about nah. He's this big fat guy that will look like Bam Bam Bigelow or Curly from the Three Stooges. He's just this very larger than life character that can only say one thing, and he's looking for love, right? Nagi wants love. That's what he wants. And so does, of course, Francesco de la Morte. He wants love, and he catches eye of Anna Falchi's character, like I said, at that day at the funeral, and he eventually kind of convinces her to go to the bone crypt, the ossuary, if you will. And they go down there and they make passionate love in this ossuary. And it was a real ossuary, which was really cool. But also, I think what this too is the art direction. The look of the graveyard itself is just breathtaking. And little did I know until I looked it up, the, of course, art director on this movie worked with the legendary Terry Gilliam, and that makes so much sense to me because the sets alone are worth watching this movie, and especially if you're watching in 4K, everything just looks so vivid and surreal. I love the look of this movie. It's really stunning for the visual eye. Of course, this was based off of the comic / novel Dylan Dog Dead of Night by Tiziano Scalvi, who had written Dylan Dog years and years before this. And when they wrote the story, the idea of the graphic novel writers was, oh my God, let's base this art design off Rupert Everett. And then, of course, what they do is they got Rupert Everett as like an in-joke to be the lead of the movie when it became time for making it live action. So that was the whole thing. Oh, we based the drawing off you. Hey, do you want to do it? And Rupert Everett's like, sure, I'm down. And this is, I watched the interview with Rupert on this, and he says to this day, this is one of his favorite roles, and I could see why. It's so fun, but it's also so philosophical and so deep and has a lot of questions, like I was saying. And if you know the movie, the back of this case, the snow globe, you know what I'm talking about. It has a lot of things to say and provoke from the viewer. Great soundtrack in this thing. I love some of the party songs that are playing when these zombies are trying to get into his hut, if you will. There's a really funny sequence where all of these people, they're driving on the road and they hit into these bikers and fly. The bus flies off the mountain. All these people die. It's like a mass murder scene. And of course, they're all being kind of sent over, and he's watching them all come in with a cigarette. He's like, Nagi, it's going to be a busy couple nights. I thought that was so funny, man. You have also the, oh my gosh, you have the great scene where Nagi, he falls in love with this severed head, and he loves her so much and all these things. And there's a point where Rupert Everett, he's killing all the zombies, and he accidentally shoots the girl. And he's like, Nagi. Nagi's crying. Nagi, it's okay. And Nagi's crying hysterically. And he's like, Nagi, we can get you girls just like that with bodies. He's like, hey, they can have torso and arms and legs and limbs and asses and everything in between. Like, I thought that stuff was really funny. Like, it just has a great sense of humor to it. I thought it was funny from start to finish. And I almost think a lot of creativity and ambition was here as well. Like, I get a vibe of a young Peter Jackson here. I get a vibe of a young Sam Raimi here. And I really do wonder what Michele Soavi could have been when you watch this. It's like, what do you got next? Oh, TV movies. That's really all he would go on to do. It was a long hiatus, then TV stuff for a majority of the rest of his career. And it's really sad to me because, man, the potential that you have here is just, it's like, bro, what else do you got for us? And sadly, the answer was nothing more, really. But this movie right here, again, is another one that I think deserves a bigger following than it has. It doesn't really have the big notoriety that I think it deserves. This is a movie that I think it should be beloved by everybody. It's a weird movie. It's very weird. It's abstract, but that's the beauty of it. There's nothing else quite like Cemetery Man de la Morte. It's just, there's nothing else like it. I think it's so beautiful from top to bottom with everything that it has to say. And there's some really interesting deep things and themes in there. Of course, one of them is with, obviously, Anna Falchi. He meets her, love at first sight, head over heels. I love you. I don't know anything about you. All I know is you slept with some 85-year-old man and you called him the best lover of your life. But I see you. You're one of the most beautiful women. These beautiful green cat eyes that Anna Falchi has. Beautiful yet, oh my God, insane. He falls in love with her, love at first sight. They have sex in the graveyard. There's a whole incident where she gets killed. He thinks she gets killed. And of course, shoots her and realizes she wasn't really dead. Like, he accidentally killed her. And it's throughout the movie as we follow him, as he keeps encountering other people that look identical to her, that maybe or maybe not are necessarily her. We have this one woman, she's the secretary of the mayor, and he's like, oh my God, it's you. Like, you're alive. And she's like, what do you mean? You know, but they fall in love again. And there's kind of a hint and stuff like that there. There's also a point where he's out at this like bar, and this woman comes up to him and says, hey, you know, would you mind, you know, sparing some money for the night? And he looks up and it's her. It's holy shit, it's you. And I'm on medication. I don't think this is going to work. You know, it's such sounds little things. And then of course, you know, they talk and have sex, and then she heard the great line as she's laying down. She goes, I don't think your medication is working. I love that. I thought that was hysterical too. But each and every time that he encounters someone that looks like Anna Fauci, each and every time he encounters someone that reminds him of her or looks identical to her, he is grossly let down. Each time she either leaves or, hey, this was just a job, like you could pay me now, and he sets her on fire. And a lot of it has a question of what is real, what is not. Is this reality? Is this his imagination? Is this a dream? Is this insanity that maybe makes no sense at all? Does the whole thing all take place in this snow globe? Because as we listen to his constant running monologues, we hear him continuously say, I wonder what the world is like out there. I wonder what it is, because all my life I've been in this cemetery. All my life I've been killing the returners, as they call them in this film. I'm sick of that life. I want to go out there. I want to see what's out there. And we get that constantly. We do have the friend on the phone, Franco, who continuously calls throughout the movie one of his best friends. And we learn that as, of course, Francesco starts to kill more and more people, someone is trying to take the rap for it. And it ends up being Franco. And I love he confronts him in the hospital in the movie. And he's just like, he sits over, leans forward. You think he's going to thank him. He just goes, thief, you stole my kills. I love that. I love that whole building to that moment. And he kind of looks the guy in the eye. Thief. I love that. I thought that was great. And then, of course, the nurse, the nun runs in. Nun runs in and she's like this. She's like, what's going on? Turns around, boom, shoots her in the head. Then the doctor comes in. Oh, my God, what is she doing on the floor? She's praying. I love that. I thought that was so funny too, man. Like everything about Cemetery Man just makes me smile. I think it's a great feel-good movie. I think it is, like I said, masterfully directed. The art direction's fantastic. Rupert Everett's performance is truly great, the best of his career. I liked the friendship and bond between he and Nagi, and the overall mystery of this film, where we finally get to, spoiler alert, the finale, where he doesn't want to do it anymore. I don't want to be the Cemetery Man anymore. I want to drive away. I want to see what's out there. I want to see the world for what it is. And he drives and drives with Nagi until they reach this bottomless pit. And it's just a cliff. And he looks and he goes, I should have known the rest of the world doesn't exist. And we zoom out to see that our characters are in this snow globe. Did he create everything? Did he imagine everything? Is everything just a figment of his imagination, right? And there's a lot of interesting questions to be had. I don't know. I don't know the answers to these questions. I have speculative theories, but at the end of the day, they're only theories. I can't prove any of them. I don't have all that much evidence to explain or support why I feel or think the way that I do. But I think that this movie does really invoke the viewer to think as much as they can. And that's why I really, really enjoy Cemetery Man from as a whole. Like the whole thing with She, I think could be really looked at and studied deeply. Like, okay, we have one girl that we think, oh my God, she's the best. She's the most beautiful. I'm in love with her. That's my lady. What if she was taken away? What if you started seeing her and other people, even if they weren't necessarily her? And I've totally been there in my life where I thought I found the one, and then I met somebody else and I saw a glimpse of the person that I loved. And then it's, oh my God, could you be that? No, like only one person is going to be that person. But I like that they do this here with the visual. We see her like he sees her, but they're never the same. It's never the same vibe or chemistry. You could look the same on the outside, but it's in here what counts. And I like that. I think there's a whole metaphor there. The whole metaphor of friendship, right? why the hell do we deal with our miserable lives? Why the hell do we deal, like I said before, the question of dealing with the instead of dealing with the living dead, we deal with the dead living. We deal with the alive dead, if you will. These boring people that we encounter on a daily basis that might as well be dead. They're miserable. They're unhappy in their lives. They don't care what tomorrow brings because they're just miserable today. Tomorrow has enough worries for itself, but they can't enjoy anything. And I think that this movie has a lot to say about the human condition, about life itself, about life versus death. That's what I love about this movie. It's so intellectual. It's so, you go down a rabbit hole thinking about this movie and trying to come up with what it means. And that's what I love about it. There is no specific answer. And that's the beauty of cinema. There isn't anything spelled out for you. It's up to you to sit there, to determine, to decide, to think what it means to you. And that's why I really like this movie. I think there has so many instances of that. Like I said, with the friendship elements, with the whole people that he visits and meets throughout the cemetery. I love there's this great running gag of this old woman who comes in with a little cane at the beginning. And as we see her, she's flirting with Francesco. Hey, you're looking handsome today. And he's like, oh, yeah, whatever, old lady. He shoos her away. We see her later on as she's with a walker now. And she's still being nice. Hey, for my tombstone, which one should I use? This young picture of me or the old one? He looks and he goes, both. And I think that in and of itself has a lot to say. Most would probably say, oh, why don't you pick the young, jovial you that was full of life and color? And they even do the two tombstone heads. One picture's in color of the young, jovial old lady. The other one's a black and white picture of her now, what she looks like now, the skeleton that she's going to be. Almost to metaphorically say, we are alive and full of color when we're young. And it's sad because that color is drained. It's gone when we grow old, sick, fat, and bald. It's sad. It's really sad that is how the circle of life goes until we finally see now she's being buried in the cemetery, and he has an emotional moment where I think he realizes that. Again, it's never said, but I think all of these things are implied there that are on the surface level. You just kind of have to dig a little bit deep. You got to take your cemetery man shovel and you got to start digging holes, baby. That's what it is. I love Cemetery Man. What a great, clever film. What a great movie that I just, every time I watch it, I'm enamored by. I think this is a truly great movie, a movie that everyone should see, a top 10 zombie movie, a top 10 graveyard horror movie, one that is challenging, one that is thought-provoking, and one that I think has just a little bit of everything: comedy, horror, humor, drama, love angles, interests, things like that, and everything else in the middle, as I said before. Creativity, great art direction. You can't go wrong with Cemetery Man. To me, Michele Soave's best movie, a movie that I've championed ever since the first time I've seen it. And like I said, I pay homage to it every single week on Grande's Graveyard when I call myself the Cemetery Man. If I am so bold, that is what it is. Now, I know the show is not good as this movie, but I will say that I definitely, I'm happy that that's a part of this show. It's the inspiration of the intro, if you will. So that is Cemetery Man, De La Morte de l'Amore. Let's see where we were. I didn't see too many comments for this one. I think we were here. Oh, I did it is what Donnie Wahlberg says in Dreamcatcher. Oh, I'm like, dude, I forgot Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher was horrible. Dreamcatcher, the first 5 minutes, you're like, oh my God, this is going to be like Stand By Me or like one of the best or It. You're getting excited. And then the next 2 hours happens and you're like, what the fuck happened? Shit weasels? A bunch of shit weasels and Jason Lee? What? I'm sorry. That is totally more deserving as and I know Stephen King likes Dreamcatcher, which is so, oh my God, that's one to go up in arms about. Did Sever charge me $90? No, that's what they did for the Four Flies and Grave Elf for people that didn't get in on the initial sale like we did. We lucked out because we know Four Flies is great, and thankfully Severn didn't bend us. But a lot of people unfortunately did get bent. This was expensive. I don't remember what it was though off the top of my head. This was one though that I got the limit. This is the limited box edition. It comes with this little booklet here. I'm a massive fan, so I had no choice. Like I adore this movie. Like this is like something that I totally had to own in 4K and get the special edition and all this stuff. Like this is one that has always been so personal to me. Like I've always loved this movie and thought the world of it. There's Nagi, if you will, but bad lighting, but there's Nagi. I don't know. I think this movie is worth the special edition. I don't know if the full edition is in print anymore, but I'm sure you could still get the standard edition. It's worth it to me. Stage Fright was also an Alfred Hitchcock movie, right? Always dug Rupert Everett. He has such a cool swag to him. I can imagine that for. Oh man, it does. It's wow. And I think for the longest time it was Mondo that had the Blu-ray of it, which was fine, but there is nothing compared to the 4. Like, to anyone that doesn't like 4K or doesn't think they see a difference in 4K, you are fucking wrong. Look at the difference between this and the Blu-ray, and you will be like, holy shit, I see it. And if you don't, you're in denial or you're blind or I don't know, but get the straight jacket ready. We're going to need more bullets. Yep, I love it. There's so many. Like, there's 100 one-liners in this movie that I think are really funny. Like, it just never fails to make me laugh. I love this movie. The main character encountering many doppelgangers of Annabelle is very similar to Vertigo. Sure. Have you seen Grim Life's location video for Cemetery? I haven't. I would love to see that because the location is gorgeous. I think it was a closed down work area and they just dressed it up to look like a cemetery and it looks incredible. And then the mausoleum, I know, or the bone crypt was real. Yes, the hospital room scene was great. Dude, that's like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. It's so weird. And you're like, wait a minute, why did Franco do this? And I don't know who you are. I was always like, wait, what? Now you don't know who you are? You're covering for him and all these things. It's, in my opinion, Cemetery is the best Italian horror movie. Man, I have a heart. I mean, it's great. I don't know if it's the best Italian horror movie, but it's definitely worthy of it. Like, it's so fucking good. It's not my favorite Italian horror movie. There would be ones I put above it, but man, I love this movie. Like, yeah, it would be probably in my top 10 Italian horror movies for sure. I don't know. I never sat down and made a list, but yeah, as far as personally what that movie means to me, yeah, I would have to agree. And I'm waiting. I want to hear Matteo because I know Matteo is not a fan of this movie, and I really love to hear the other side of the coin always. So Matteo, please. I think you explained to me once that it was mismarketed in Italy. I would love to know more about that because I really couldn't find much info on that, but Matteo was there. So that's the all the article, factual things that you need. Yes, Shit Weasels and Graveyard Shift was exploitative. Exactly. But he endorses Dreamcatcher. I don't get it. Dreamcatcher that's fucking top 5 worst of Stephen King adaptations. But no, Graveyard Shift is one of the worst to him. And The Shining. Like, okay, Stephen. But again, I should be fair. Just like us, he's entitled to his opinion. And he literally could say, I wrote the book on it. So, to anyone who can do that or throw that at you, it's like, okay, I understand. But I agree with you. I think he's nuts for, that's crazy to me. Graveyard Shift is fun. I like Graveyard Shift for what it's worth. But Cemetery Man, I think it's a 10 out of 10. I love Cemetery Man ever since the first time I've seen it. It's just, I've also heard this too before we close on it. I was talking to a few people. A lot of them say you don't get the movie that you expect when you see Cemetery Man. And that's understandable. It's not what you'd expect. It is such a horse of a different color that there's really no way to go in fully expecting what you're going to get. And that's, I think, the beauty of it. That's what I like about it. It is sort of unpredictable. Okay, Matteo chimed in before we move on. The movie is good, but it was depicted as a live action of the Italian comic strip Dylan Dog in the Dead of Night, the Detective of the Impossible. Other than the resemblance of Rupert to the character in the alpha. Okay, so you felt that it was a poor adaptation of the comic Dylan Dog Dead. That's understandable. I could totally get that because I have not read that comic. I will say this, though. When we finally do get the Dylan Dog Dead of Night movie with Brandon Routh, nothing says movie star like Brandon Routh, let me tell you. Brandon Routh eventually plays the Dylan Dog Dead of Night. This movie is 100 times better than that movie. So I will say that. But I don't know. I've never read the original comic, so I can't say. So that is what it is. But I really like the movie. De la Morte title is more accurate than the title Cemetery Man. Yes, and I know that Everett and I think Sawabe were both upset with that. That was when America got it. America changed it to Cemetery Man. And I understand, and I agree with you, De la Morte, De la Mort. I think it translates to Of Love, Of Death, which is a better title because, again, I think that's more of the themes it's hitting on is love and death and friendship and all these, dramatic life themes. I think that Cemetery Man, though, just that was how I discovered the movie. That's the Cemetery Man. So I always was like, oh, the Cemetery Man. And then, eventually made it a part of my intro. So I don't know, that title, I get why people don't like it, but it's really a reason I watched the movie. Like, who knows? I don't know if De La Morte would have appealed to 12, 13-year-old, 14-year-old John Grande, whatever I was when I saw it. I don't know if that title would have appealed. Cemetery Man did. Even though it is really not a horror movie, but Michael Jackson's Thriller has an iconic graveyard scene with Vincent Price giving the warning, of course. Did you see Dylan? Yes, I did just mention it. Never mind. I'm sorry if I jumped the shark there. I watched Dylan Dog after finding out it was based on the same comic as Cemetery Man. What a disappointment. Yeah, exactly. I saw Dylan Dog Dead of Night in the No, I don't think I would have been. I don't remember if that was R-rated or not. I forget. I think I saw it in the theater. I forget it. I think it was PG-13. I can't remember. If anyone remembers what the rating was on Dylan Dog Dead of Night, I saw it in the theater and I remember being like, this sucks, man. And like, that was the day I was like, Brandon Routh, your career is over. Little did I know how right I was at whatever age I would have been. Dylan Dog came out, 2010, 2011? So it would have been, 13? 13 probably. So yeah, no, that fucking movie, holy shit. That's like, if you think this is bad, like fucking watch that. Tell me again. It was PG. Okay, because I was gonna say, if it was R, I don't know how I would have gotten to the theater because I wasn't 17 yet. So it was PG-13. That's why I got to go see it, because I was 13. So there you go. Isn't that funny? That would have been the same year as Insidious, and I really like that. That's a PG-13 horror movie that's fucking as scary as an R-rated. So there you go. Which brings us to the last movie of the evening that we're going to be discussing here tonight, of course. This one came out from 1971, and Spanish director Miguel Madrid. This is a little talked about one. This is Graveyard of Horror. Yes, Graveyard of Horror, a.k.a. Necropopagus, a.k.a. The Butcher of Binbrook. Brief plot synopsis. A young nobleman returns to his crumbling family castle, only to learn that his wife has died, giving birth to their stillborn child. But why, oh why, is her coffin empty? Yes, The Graveyard of Horror. Now, this one, I think, also Severin has put out. It's a big 4-pack that you can get this movie on. It's also on YouTube. You can watch the movie for free. I thought this was a mixed bag. This is nothing great, nothing to run home about. It is a 4 on IMDb. I don't think it's that bad either. That's too low. I think that's too low for this movie. But of course, Miguel Madrid was the writer director of this, and he would go on to do some better movies, like Killer of Dolls was the name of the movie. That's a good movie he had made a few years after this, down the road. This was his first movie. This was his directorial debut, as of course this movie that is shot in Spain. It is a Spanish film. However, it is very much trying to present itself as a UK Gothic graveyard horror movie, which I definitely really appreciated. Like, okay, we're Spanish filmmakers, we're shooting this in Spain, but a lot of it is dressed up like a Hammer horror film, even though this was 1971 and Hammer horror has not been as popular, like it was booming in the 1950s, booming in the late 50s into the early 60s. But like by 71, Hammer horror wasn't as booming as it was before, where this movie kind of presents itself as one. We have a giant castle, this, like it says in the synopsis, crumbling castle. We follow this man as he's traveling home after a long time away from his wife and family, and of course her sisters and their husbands respectively. He travels home only to find and hear that she has died, and no one will tell him why. What happened to her? Where is she? What happened? Like, what's going on? And everyone's kind of evading his question until the doctor says, listen, she died giving birth. The baby was a stillborn, and we weren't able to save, obviously, the baby, and we weren't able to save her. And he's distraught. He's so sad, but he doesn't believe it. He goes, I don't buy this story. There's no way this didn't happen. And everyone's telling him, like, let it go, let it go. She's gone. She's buried in the graveyard. You have to let it go. Like, you have to move on. That's a part of grieving. It's hard, but you have to move on. And of course, one night he gets the great idea. I don't believe them, so I'm going to go in the graveyard myself. I'm going to get a shovel, and I'm going to dig her up. I'm going to make sure that she's really gone, that she's really dead and buried. And of course, we get I think one of the best characters in this movie, played by Victor Israel, Mr. Fowles, is this creepy graveyard keeper who reminds me a lot Bela Lugosi's Igor in, of course, Son of Frankenstein. Just this kind of hunchy little guy, and he's really weird. And no, you can't go to my graveyard. I've taken care of it. I loved his character. He was great, like perfect, like quintessential weird guy in a graveyard horror movie. He forbids him to do it. And then one night, of course, he sneaks past him anyway, and he starts digging and digging and digging. And we get to the wife's grave. We open it up, and the wife is no longer there. Holy shit, where is she? What's going on? His instincts were right. And then, weirdly, these two men in skeletons masks come and grab him, and he's sort of out of the picture for the hour left that we have of the movie. We don't really see the husband until the very end or know what happened to him. And we get these insinuations that there is this reptilious lizard creature that is picking off people around the city every month. And of course, who are these masked men and skeletons? That's something that's revealed along the way. But of course, it's this big mystery as to who are these guys? What are they doing? Why are they feeding it to this monster? What is the monster? And of course, the age-old question, what happened to the guy's wife? As we watch this movie, we flash back and forth between the husband character and all of her sisters, and how he had affairs with certain ones of them. And I think the movie, if I can give the movie some credit, I think it looks brilliant. Like, this is very distinctive 1970s picture. I love how movies looked back then. That was my favorite era of the movies, was the early 1970s, and the way movies looked. The grain, the green tone at times. There's really interesting sequences of snow that is, you could tell it's real snow falling on these actors. I thought that was really nice. It has that atmosphere and vibe that you look for when you're wanting to watch a graveyard themed horror picture. And that works. It has the weird, creepy character. It has this interesting, mysterious plot. From there, though, the middle of this thing is where it kind of slows down and gets your bad reputation of, oh, this is a 4 on IMDb. It slows down a lot. If you're not one of those people that, can take a longer feeling movie, a slower burning movie, this one can get quite dull quite quickly. So I can understand anyone that doesn't get into this and thinks it's dull or boring or anything in between. Because I get it. I was a little bit bored at times when I watched this. I'm not even going to lie to you. But you do get some interesting sequences, right, of seeing these sisters, and then we get the idea of, oh my God, do these women have motives? Like, what really happened here? As we flash back and forth between reality, between the now, and between the then. And I liked how they kind of shuffled all that up, the looks of it, visuals, all that stuff. It works in spades. What I really don't like is when we get towards the finale, we learn about this monster creature that's in the graveyard. That part of it, I don't even know if that really had to be in there. As we have this cover here, this was, of course, the VHS cover is Graveyard of Horror. That's a good cover. Then you have the bad, you also have that. Then you have this, which is really, oh man. I mean, that is a bad looking creature, if I say so myself. That is pretty ugly. As we see, that is the big reveal of the monster that, again, I think they did a smart thing. It's not shot in the shadows, but we see extreme close-ups of the monster to make us wonder what the rest looks like. We get extreme close-ups on the eyes. We get extreme close-ups on the legs, the skin tone, all these things, but we don't see the monster in full until the very finale where, boom, he's carrying out the guy's wife, like bride and groom style, if you will. I don't know. I thought the reveal of the monster and there's this whole really bad explanation where, this scientist was pumping himself with weird photogenic cells and reptilious blood and venom and all these things in between, and he becomes this reptilious monster. I'm just like, what? Like, why did any of that have to be in there? I sort of think it would have been more better if it was just an actual monster, not this man who turned himself into one, not this Mr. Hyde, if you will. That was odd. And then the reveal of the two skeleton men, I won't lie to you, was very underwhelming. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, because this is one that's very underwhelming, but I mean, underseen, I should say. Their reveal I thought was very that's it, really? I don't know. We get all these context clues, and that's the two people under the skeleton masks. Very underwhelming there. But I can't lie and say that there's nothing to get out of it. Like, again, I really like the atmosphere. I thought it was really creepy at times. I thought visually the director did a good job, and you could totally tell there was talent there. There was potential that he would go on to capture more and more as he worked on more pictures. I will say, if you're obviously you like English, sounding, obviously English audio movies, the dub on this is pretty bad. There's an English dub. It's pretty bad. The Spanish dub is the way to go because obviously it was shot in Spain, so all the actors are speaking Spanish. That's probably the best way to watch this movie. But of course, if you don't like subtitles, you're going to go through some poor dubbing. That's going to happen with your ear, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't know. I liked this. I thought this was worth a watch. I was like pleasantly wanting to watch one that I had never seen before. And this was the one I picked. I ended up just going with this one, The Graveyard of Horror. And like I said, the other couple of titles that it goes under. I don't know. I had fun with this. I thought this was okay at best. It's nothing great. It's not a 4 on IMDb, though. Like, I totally would give it like a 5, 5.5 in there, somewhere in that ballpark, because it does the technical things right. It sets a good hook. It just doesn't necessarily stick the middle and or ending. I think that's really kind of the wishy-washy part of this. But I don't know. I think it's worth a watch. I think it's totally a movie that you might be able to get more out of than I was. I thankfully think it's worth the time. And you'll see some familiar Spanish actors in there if you're familiar with any of the films by, Narcisco Ibanez Serrador or, some of the other Spanish filmmakers around this time. You will notice and recognize some of the people that look, and were in those pictures as well. So it's definitely, I don't know. I think it's worth a watch. Nothing great, but definitely worth a watch. Never heard of or seen Graveyard of Horror, but that will be fixed after the live stream. Yes! All right, we've sold one. The Spanish poster for the movie feels like a ripoff from the poster Forbidden Planet because of the image of the zombie carrying the woman. That's right, the reptilious monster. Grande, did this come out as an alternate title? Yes. Okay, so Butcher of Bryn Book is one of them. I'm sorry if I pronounce it. Necrophagus? I don't know how to say it. Necrophagus? I don't know. Necrophagus? I don't know. But also Graveyard of Horror. That was the VHS title in the 1980s that this got released under in the States again. So again, another Graveyard of Horror. But the Graveyard is very prominent here. Thanks, Scratch. I'll try that. Yeah, it'll come up under that as well. I really like this movie. 2, I think it's definitely worth a recommendation. It's just about average, maybe just a little bit above. But I want to talk a little bit about one of the other movies that I didn't necessarily watch for this, but I've seen it 100 times. Someone had mentioned the short story earlier from Richard Matheson, which is The Graveyard Rats. Now, The Graveyard Rats is a great short horror story from the legendary Richard Matheson. May he rest in peace. And it's been adapted a lot, right? It had been Cabinet of Curiosities, and it had been done I think it had been done in like the 60s and 70s. And I know it had been done in the 90s, obviously, when you get to Trilogy of Terror 2 in the opening segment. Of course, Trilogy of Terror 2 was Dan Curtis. It had been, I think, 21 years since the original Trilogy of Terror in 1975, starring the legendary Karen Black in 4 different roles and 3 different segments. And instead, we get Lisette Anthony, who plays 3 different characters in 3 different segments. And I love Lisette Anthony. I thought she did a great job. And this is the story of Lisette Anthony as she's playing this kind of trophy wife that is gold digging for her husband. Her husband's this old, weird, wheelchair bound man, and she is treating him like garbage and cheating on him with her cousin. Yes, with her cousin. With her cousin. It's pretty weird. And she thinks nothing of it, but yeah, I think it's pretty odd. Cheating on her old husband who's wheelchair bound with her cousin. And they one night sit together and create this devious plan of how we're going to knock off the old man and steal all this money. Now, of course, they trick the old man into thinking there's been an intruder in the house, and they end up throwing him down the steps while he's in the wheelchair, and he does this crazy tumble to his death. And then, of course, they have to act sad. Oh, my poor husband, I loved him. All these things. I was like, dude, that is really, really sad, all this stuff. And then you get, of course, they are getting ready to bury him. And the whole thing is, there's this whole trick where you can get all of his money, but it's in this microfilm, in this like secret pocket watch that he used to wear. And they're like, oh my God, where's the pocket watch? They rip the house apart. Where the hell is the pocket watch? And they realize that it's on his dead body. His big middle finger to them was, come and get it. If you want this microfiber to get through millions and millions of dollars, you'll have to get it off my dead body, over my dead body. they go to the graveyard, and of course they're warned by Jeffrey Lewis, who Jeffrey Lewis is in this, and he plays the gravedigger, and he warns them. He has this Irish accent in it, which I thought was really funny. He's like, hey, don't be going down there, And they're like, oh, shut up, old man. They ignore his, they don't heed his warnings, and they go down to the graveyard, and these fucking giant practical rats proceed to attack them. And to me is one of the scariest, most uncomfortable things I've ever watched. Like, to this day, it scares the life out of me. I believe I watched this movie on the USA Network at the ripe old age of like 7 or 8 years old and was scared shitless. I mean, I think the rats look incredible to this day. There's some fun special features on the Blu-ray where they show what the rats look like now, 20 plus years, 30 years almost now later. They still look creepy. They still look dense, and they still look ferocious with these like dead-eye red eyes and these giant like gnarly teeth. And oh my God, man, absolutely horrifying as they eat this couple alive in the graveyard. I think it's one of the best, most underrated graveyard stories and tales ever told, and it's one of my favorite, probably my favorite adaptation of that Richard Matheson story, because again, it deals with a lot of different things, right? Again, the whole idea of greed and why greed exists and why we do these horrible, unmoral things, right? We have our husband character who is he's a mean old man, don't get me wrong, but his wife is doing some pretty mean, horrible things too, and cheating on him, and that's obviously not a very nice thing to do to somebody. He is degrading to her, treats to her, talks to her like shit and all these things. And they, out of their, spite and greed and want for his money, do commit murder and ultimately are eaten alive themselves, right? Greed can eat you alive. If you let it, if you commit these acts of murder and immoralities. I love how that's done. I like how that story is told. Richard Matheson does a great job of telling the tale of, yes, you killed this guy to get his money. Okay, over his dead body, you're going to have to go get the stuff off his body. And then, of course, you're eaten alive like the rats that you are. To me, that's horror 101. And that's why Richard Matheson is one of the all-time great horror writers. It's just I loved how he thought of the genre. He really had respect for it. And to tell one story while like subliminally under the surface telling the other, and to have those stories intersect, and a little bit of rat mayhem and blood and violence and practical makeup effects in there. I love that stuff. Like, to me, the Graveyard Rats is great. And the episode of Cabinet of Curiosities, he's absolutely right, is really good too, for the record. Let's see. Trilogy of Terror 2 was another movie I didn't know existed until you mentioned it on a live stream. Yeah, that's a childhood movie for me. Like, I always love that. My the favorite of the movie is the second segment, which is called Bobby, which I always thought was the best horror anthology segment that there ever was. Now, of course, funny enough, speaking at your title, Dead of Night was made by Dan Curtis in 1977, I want to say. That was another horror anthology that he had done. And he made the segment there first. Fast forward 19 years down the road, he remakes Bobby again. And it's one case where I like the remake better. Like, I like the remake of Bobby done in the 90s with Lysette Anthony and Blake Herron. May he rest in peace. I love their segment better. Like, I always thought that was such a great segment of this grieving mother who is sad, and she practices black magic and the occult and all these things, and her son dies in a drowning accident, and she summons him back to life. And Bobby comes from beyond the grave to come back and be in her presence. And of course, he's not the same. And they play this deadly game of hide and seek throughout the house. And there's the whole gag of the telephone and repeating everything you're saying. And, I fooled you, didn't I, mommy? I mean, that, holy shit. Like, to this day, I love that segment. And then the last one, you have the sequel to the Karen Black, the Zuni fetish doll that everybody remembers. Like, nobody remembers the other two stories. Like, no one. If it's Trilogy of Terror 1, Trilogy of Terror 2, nobody remembers the other two stories. We all remember the Zuni fetish doll. I see it at conventions sell for absurd amounts of money. You just see it everywhere. That's what people remember. And I don't know. I really like Trilogy of Terror 2 and Trilogy of Terror 1. I think Trilogy of Terror 2 is like very underrated. But again, maybe that's one just because I saw it as a kid. I herald it and I'm very nostalgic for it. So maybe that's why. Because I've had people tell me it's terrible. And I'm like, dude, I don't see that. I love that movie like that, but that's just me. Same, I first saw it on the USA Channel as a kid. There you go. So there you go. We kind of, in the same way, we're exposed to that movie. Sounds a lot like Pet Sematary. I mean, it has themes of even Friday the 13th, right? Where the son drowned and came back and he's not the same. And like it has a lot of things like that. But I don't know. I just think the performances, the intensity of it, the dark, stormy night of the lightning and all this stuff, thunder, the deadly game of hide and seek where he's trying to hit his mother with a hammer and a brick, and he throws this fucking chandelier at her. Like it is crazy. She shoots the son out the window. He does a fucking giant back bump through the window. Like, holy shit. I mean, it is a violent story. Like, it's basically mother versus son to the death. And I'm here for every minute of that. I don't know. I love that, man. But the major reviews are out of the way. Is there any other things you guys would want to talk about, graveyard horror wise, or even in general? I can make this open because I'm down to chill for a little bit longer if you guys are, or if we could wrap it, whatever you guys are feeling. But yeah, the main reviews I've definitely gotten through now, and I don't know, big fan of Cemetery Man, and I think Graveyard Shift is also another really fun movie, and then I think Graveyard of Horror. Like I said, if you're into this type of movie, if you're into movies that have that aesthetic, that vibe and feel, I definitely think, that's another really worth watching one. City of the Dead, Not Living has a great cemetery. Okay, not City of the Living Dead, just City of the Dead. That is one, Tom, I'm ashamed to say I've never seen it. I've not seen City of the Dead. I've seen City of the Dead, but not City of the Dead. So that's one I'll have to add to my watch list. I'll have to, throw that on after the stream because that's one. And now, when did City of the Dead come out? Because I'm not as familiar with that one. City of the Dead. Let's see. 1990 Horror Hotel? No, that can't be it. Is it? Let me see. City of the Dead, Necropolis. No, not Return of the Living Dead, Necropolis. Not that one. Oh, okay. Is it City of the Dead, British supernatural horror film directed by John Llewellyn Moxley? Let's see. Okay, produced in the United Kingdom, Massachusetts. Okay, it looks like it's this one, which is Sabbath. Oh shit, yeah, this looks awesome. It looks a little bit something like Black Sunday. And that Black Sunday, I mean, it opens in kind of a graveyard, right? With the mask of death and Barbara Steele and the sledgehammer to the face, impaling her, and all this blood and holes that are driven into her face. That is fucking horrifying. I always thought that was really disturbing. Serpent in the Rainbow, the British one for City. Okay, gotcha. Serpent in the Rainbow. I'm stoked you mentioned that one. That is not one that came to mind when I thought graveyard horror movies, but absolutely. Bill Pullman is great in that movie. Wes Craven, really underrated flick from him. And that's one that goes back to not your traditional flesh-eating zombies that Romero had birthed. This is more of the voodoo zombies and the whole elements of like life after death and stuff like I Walked with a Zombie and shit like that, White Zombie. That is more what that is paying homage to. And I think that it's a really underrated movie as well. I always really like Serpent in the Rainbow. I think it's just a undersung movie in the career of Wes Craven, which a lot of his movies are undersung, like I always thought Shocker was a lot of fun. I always loved The People Under the Stairs. That whole era, I think that was a 3-picture deal with Alive Films. I think it was Serpent in the Rainbow, Shocker, and People Under the Stairs. They were all made 6 years, 2 years apart, 3 movies, 2 years apart. So yeah, no, that I always really liked that one too. That's a great call. What do you want? I want to hear you scream. That's what I've never discussed, I don't think. Maybe, no, I did Wes Craven retrospective or ranked, and I talked about it there, but I've never done like a full in-depth review, so maybe down the road. Iron Rose, that's another one I've never... Rare you guys throw ones at me that I've not heard of. Iron Rose, movie from 1973. Oh, Jean Rollin? Oh, man. Yep, I've got to see this. Anything Jean Rollin is fucking good, man. Oh, shit. This looks awesome. A young couple out for a walk decide to take a stroll through a large cemetery. As darkness begins to fall, they realize they can't find their way out, and soon fears begin to overtake them. Holy shit. That sounds amazing. I need to watch that right now. Like, that is holy shit. We got to find a Blu-ray of that. I love the poster, too. Oh, man, what a poster. I'm going to share this poster. This is a really cool... Thank you, Scratch Bruno, for that. Bruno, sorry. For some reason, I always want to say Bruno, but it's Bruno. I'll get it right eventually. That is a cool poster. Look at that. The Iron Rose. Really cool. Thanks for sharing that one. That's cool. 2 more. Omen and Sleepy Hollow. Dude, yes to both of those. Okay. The Omen... Holy, looks like Iron Rose is getting added to the watch list. Yeah, for sure. That looks awesome. And I am huge on Jean Rollin. Like, I just reviewed Grapes of Death, which is a really good one. I really love Living Dead Girl. John Rollin just doesn't get enough credit, man. That guy was a really good filmmaker. All his French cinema at its finest. The cemetery scene in The Omen is a great call that I didn't think of. That is a fucking horrifying scene. As he was born of a jackal. You know, they go to the cemetery and the dogs attack them. Holy shit! Like, to this day, I think that's one of the scariest scenes ever. I love how it's directed by Richard Donner, and just the cold. I always felt the cold in that graveyard. Just like, what the fuck, man? This is really uneasy. So yes, The Omen is, again, not one I would consider a graveyard horror movie off the top of my head, but it absolutely has some of the best graveyard scenes and work in it. Like, there's no doubt. And Sleepy Hollow, totally, man. And I'm assuming you're meaning I think there's only one Sleepy Hollow movie to my knowledge. Maybe there's more, but I'm pretty sure you're meaning the Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci, Tim Burton one, which I would agree it's one of the best Tim Burton movies. I'm not a big Tim Burton fan, but that's up there with my favorites. Like, I like that a lot. I always thought Sleepy Hollow was good. And of course, Christina Ricci, I'll watch anything with Christina Ricci in it. She's just great. People on the Stairs, I bought a DVD of and must have movie for me. I agree. I love People Under the Stairs. I think it's a great one. Looks like Iron Rose getting out of the watch list. Yeah, absolutely. I will totally add that to the watch list because that list just sounds really good. So I'll have to see if I can find a Blu-ray of that because that just sounds very enticing. Poltergeist, a graveyard movie. I mean, they move in and the backyard's an Indian, or underneath them is an Indian burial ground. So I guess, I mean, if you get technical enough, you can make it like, it's like same thing with, Mearns always goes, oh, everything's a giallo. I'm like, buddy, but that's classic Mearns. I mean, I would say no, but I could see how you could argue it. Anyway, it's a fun movie. I've never looked at Poltergeist the way some people do. Some people tell you Poltergeist is one of the greatest movies, like Haunted House was. It's good, but it wouldn't be on my top 10 haunted house movie. In fact, I did a top 10 haunted house movies, and no, it did not make the list. It's good though. It's definitely good. You have the age-old debate. Well, who directed it? Was it Spielberg? Was it Hooper? It was Spielberg. I don't even think there should be an argument or a question anymore. It's totally a Steven Spielberg movie. Like, just the look of it. It looks like everything else Steven Spielberg did before and after that. And Tobe Hooper's movies have a certain look that everything he did before and after that look like. And Poltergeist just looks Spielberg-y to me. I don't know. And to me, the thing is, if you have to speculate, if you have to ask the question, did he or didn't he? It's usually he didn't. Like, that's at least how I look at that whole controversy. I always thought that was maybe Tobe was on set, maybe he got fired like he did from movies like Venom and movies like The Dark and movies that Tobe had gotten fired from. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe they just used Tobe to sell it from the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That may be the only reason they wanted Tobe. I don't know. We'll never know the whole story of that because I'm sure Spielberg doesn't want to talk about it. Cemetery of Terror is a fun one, Mexican horror. Okay. I'm wondering, do you guys, any of you ever seen The Grave Dancers? Because that's one that I've always kind of championed. That's one where these group of friends, they're like a group of 4 friends from childhood, like Stand By Me circa, right? It's 3 guys and a girl. And one of them dies, and they all, of course, go to the funeral. And later that night, they sneak back into the graveyard to have one last, like, hurrah with their dead friend. And they go to the graveyard and they throw alcohol on his grave, and they sing and read this song called The Grave Dancers as they dance around his grave and other graves around them. And basically what happens is because they desecrated the graves, the people's graves they danced on come back and try to get each one of them. And it has a fun finale, circa Evil Dead, but it's very, very CG and like computer generated, and it looks quite bad. But otherwise, I really like it. Like, I like the story. I like the idea. I like the ambition. It's a good movie. I like The Grave Dancers a lot. It's another one that I always kind of thought was a underrated little gem when it comes to horror. I know there is a movie called The Graveyard, and it's funny. When I hung out with Mearns, I pulled it up. I went, only on and I pointed to it. He was like, Graveyard, which is technically Scream Bloody Murder 3. Bloody Murder 3, which there's Bloody Murder 1, Bloody Murder 2, which are these bad, like, it's the one, you've seen it. If you've ever been to a video store, you've seen it. It's the bad hockey mask with the hook killer. Horrible movies, all the Scream Bloody Murders, but the Graveyard is the unofficial third one, and they call it the Graveyard. I was always like, that's awesome, man. The story of behind the filming of Serpent and the Rainbow is pretty wild. Yes, absolutely. It's and yeah, here you go, Mike Mendez film. It was part of the 8 Films to Die For. You're absolutely right. And I've done reviews of the first 2 years of the 8 Films to Die For. That's a fun series. That's always fun. Granted, there's some bad movies in there, but The Grave Dancers is definitely one of the better ones. Like, I always liked that movie. I thought, aside from some shoddy acting, it's a fun movie. Friday the 13th Part 5 and 6 always come to mind. That's a great, it's funny. That wouldn't come to my mind immediately, but you're absolutely right. The opening of Friday 5 is really underrated, where Corey Feldman is going through. It's funny. I think it was Danny Steinman's backyard, because they only had Corey Feldman for a day to film, and he's going through the backyard and all the rain is falling on him and stuff. And he gets there, and then it's these 2 guys digging up Jason that gets stabbed. One of my favorite scenes and shots of the whole Friday the 13th series is that long shot of Jason as he gets out of the grave in Part 5 and kind of looks at Corey Feldman and no, and then Tom Shepard wakes up, and then we're off to the races with Friday 5, the movie that we go on to get. And then Part 6, yeah, that's a classic one too, because Tom Matthews and his buddy, they go to kill Jason and then accidentally resurrect him through the lightning strike to the thing. I mean, it's so cheesy, and you get the Jason James Bond slash as the Jason Lives. But Part 6 is weird. Part 6 is towards my bottom of the Paramount 8. Part 6 is my least favorite. But that opening scene is pretty fun. Like, that's definitely the best part of Part 6 for sure, because it's just, everyone remembers it. It's like, struck by lightning, resurrected. There he is. And Friday the 13th next week. I always heard it's Corey's neighbor's backyard. Oh, okay, maybe, I don't know. I thought it was the director's backyard. May he rest in peace, Danny Steinman. I thought he did a good job of Part 5. I'm in the alone category there. I like Part 5. I don't care what anybody says. I like Part 5 more than Part 6. So take that, if you will. But yeah, no, unless any other horror movies you guys want to talk about here tonight, I guess we could wrap it. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing graveyard horror movies and talking all things with you guys. Cemetery Man to Cemetery Man, if you will. Always a good time with you guys. I appreciate you all bringing, a lot of fun activity and discussions into the chat. Always fun. And of course, if you are seeing the replay of this and are seeing obviously the replay of this and you've seen these movies before, if you want to comment down below, let me know what you think of Cemetery Man, De La Morte de l'Amour, of course, the Butcher of Brynbrook, The Graveyard of Horror, and then of course Graveyard Shift. Totally let me know down below, because I'd love to hear that. Part 5 is amazing. I love Part 5. It has become my second favorite. It used to be my favorite because it's the most fun, it's the most sleazy, it's the most cheesy in a lot of ways. It has the most boobs, blood, and mayhem. But I think the original is finally overtaken for me. Like, the reason I'm a horror fan was because I saw the original movie. Like, that's the movie that made me a fan. So over time, the original has just grown into my favorite. It sucks because Part 5 was always my favorite, but Part 1 has taken it over. Oh, I'm alone because Friday 13th, 2009, the remake is my favorite of the series. You are definitely in the minority, my friend, but listen, it's better than Jason X. It's better than Jason Goes to Hell. It's better than those movies. I don't know. I wouldn't put it up there with any of the Paramount 8 though. Like, I would say all the Paramount 8 are better than that one. But that's cool. I think there are worse remakes out there for sure. Great show. Been sitting here making thumbnails while the show plays. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Great show as always. Grande, only in the graveyard. Thank you so much. Next week, just a brief preview of next week's show. Next week, we dive into the world of creepypasta. Yes. First time ever on Grande's Graveyard, we will dive into the mythos and do a retrospective of the Slender Man. Yes, Slender Man next week on Grande's Graveyard. I have recorded a little bonus video where I will be playing a Let's Play of Slender Man in the 8 pages, and I'll be uploading that like Tuesday-ish, so you guys can watch me play video games of Slender Man and talk about it. It's something a little bit bonus for the week, and I'll next week, of course, go through the entire mythos of the original creepypasta, Slender Man, the real-life murders, the video games, the, theories from fans, the actual movie itself, the rise and the fall, if you will, of the biggest creepypasta legend that there ever was, the Slender Man. So very much looking forward to that. I'm very excited to discuss that with you guys tomorrow not tomorrow, next week on Grande's Graveyard. It's going to be a lot of fun. But like I said, everyone, this was a really fun show talking all things graveyard horror only on Grande's Graveyard. And everybody, we will catch you next time only on the Graveyard. Too sweet peace. Toodles, everybody. Have a great, happy, healthy weekend. Bye-bye.